Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top story tonight on Gravitas is about Israel's new laser defense system. By now, Israel is synonymous with the famous Iron Dome system. But now, as the Iron Dome is crumbling in a way, posing challenges for Israel, the Iron Beam is rising. How exactly does it work? Will it be a game changer for the country? Here's what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. Who is responsible for the Kerala temple fireworks explosion in India? What really happened? We take stock of what things are looking like at this point. Why does Mohammed Yunus want to convert Sheikh Hasina's home into a museum? We get you the bigger picture. The curse of pollution continues to cast its smoggy shadow over Delhi. Where does the buck stop? Does it even stop anywhere? All this and more coming up. Our top story tonight on Gravitas is about Israel's new laser defense system. Ever since Hamas breached the Israeli air defenses on the October 7, 2023 attack, during the attack, overwhelming its Iron Dome, questions have been raised about whether the famed air defense system has lost its missile detection ability. And as a result, now Israel is working on a new laser system that can take down rockets. A new weapon that can essentially improve Israel's defense capabilities as it fights battles on multiple fronts. Here's what we know about this new weapon. It's called Iron Beam. It is a new laser system that can basically intercept rockets, drones and mortars at negligible cost, to be operational next year after an accelerated manufacturing process. Basically, it is a shield that would supplement the existing air defenses. You see, Israeli air defenses, in a way, have been stretched to the limit by more than a year of the fighting with Iran and its proxies in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Syria, Iraq, Yemen. Now, how does the Iron Beam work, though? According to reports, Iron Beam is designed to disable incoming projectiles by heating them using a high-energy laser, as opposed to shooting them down with missiles. The new system has an effective range of between hundreds of meters and several kilometers. But to be clear here, the Iron Beam is not meant to replace the Iron Dome or Israel's other air defense systems. The Iron Beam is meant to supplement and complement the Iron Dome. Its range would complement the short-range Iron Dome rocket interceptor, according to state-owned Rafael Advanced Defense Systems, which is the manufacturer of both types of weaponry. Israel's Elbit Systems Limited has said that the Israel Defense Ministry has awarded it a contract worth about $200 million to supply the iron beam lasers, whereas it costs about $60,000 to shoot down a projectile using the Iron Dome. Iron beam's price tag will be as little as $5. The price of a Tumor missile, which is the interceptor launched by Iron Dome, is about $100,000. In comparison, the cost of interception using a laser shield is the price of the electricity used to launch it, which means that laser interception will transform the economy of air defense. That's because missiles and drones are cheaper to deploy than to shoot down. The laser system would also eliminate the danger of interceptor debris causing damage. Amid the conflict, Iron Beam is being manufactured at an accelerated pace and will enter operational service by next year. On Monday, while announcing the move, Israel Defense Ministry's Director General, Eyal Zamir, said, and I'm quoting here, "The tiding of the start of a new era in the battlefield, the laser era." Here's what else we know at this point. The Iron Beam was presented for the first time in February 2014 at the Singapore Air Show. After it proved its capabilities in a series of tests in southern Israel about 3 years ago, it entered into operational development and adaptation to the battlefield. According to the Israeli Defense Ministry, Israel is among the first countries in the world to succeed in using powerful laser technology to develop a working air defense system and to demonstrate interceptions in operational scenarios. Since its development started, the high-power laser has reportedly proven more powerful than what the Israeli Defense Ministry's team initially aimed for. They say that as long as there is a constant source of energy for the laser, there is no risk of ever running out of ammunition. But you see, there is a downside to this as well. It does not function well in times of low visibility, including heavy cloud cover or other inclement weather conditions. And for that reason, the Israeli Defense Ministry intends to also mount the system on an airplane, which would basically help get around the limitation by putting the system above the clouds. But that is still a few more years off. You see, Israel's aerial defenses have largely been developed in conjunction with its key ally, the US. Recently, the US has also, in fact, deployed one of its own THAAD interceptors to help Israel fend off potential ballistic missile attacks from Iran. We told you about this. Israel, for that matter, is also expecting a $5.2 billion in emergency funding from the US, some of which would be used for the Iron Beam. And as far as the question of the Iron Beam's success is concerned, we will have to wait and watch to get that answer. As it works to strengthen its air defenses, Israel is not just waging a war against Iran and its proxies. It's also waging a war with the United Nations. You heard that right. Netanyahu's Israel is currently at loggerheads with the United Nations in brazen defiance of appeals from countries worldwide. And as a result of this brazenness, it's the ordinary Palestinians who are suffering. Let me tell you how. On Monday, Israel passed a law banning the UN Palestinian Refugee Agency, UNRWA, from operating in the country, a legislation that will basically impact the UN aid agency's work in war-torn Gaza. The lawmakers who drafted the law claim that some UNRWA staffers were involved in the October 7, 2023 attack on southern Israel. They say that some UNRWA staffers had membership in Hamas and other armed groups. The ban does not refer to operations in the Palestinian territories or elsewhere, but the Israeli parliament has passed an addendum to the new law, saying that Israeli authorities can no longer have contact with the UNRWA, leaving room for exceptions in the future. And after the vote, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, and I'm quoting, UNRWA workers involved in terrorist activities against Israel must be held accountable, since avoiding a humanitarian crisis is also essential. Sustained humanitarian aid must remain available in Gaza now and in the future, quote unquote. Now, Israel's ban on UNRWA has alarmed the world, United Nations and some of Israel's Western allies. Israel's decision could also worsen the already dire humanitarian situation in Gaza, where Israel has been fighting Hamas for over a year now. The head of the UNRWA, Philippe Lazzarini, has called the vote a dangerous precedent that opposes the UN Charter and violates Israel's obligation under international law. On social media platform X, he tweeted, I'm quoting now, "This is the latest in the ongoing campaign to discredit UNRWA and delegitimize its role towards providing human development assistance and services to Palestine refugees," quote unquote. UNRWA, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees, employs tens of thousands of workers and provides education, health, aid to millions of Palestinians in Gaza, the West Bank, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria. It has long had tense relations with Israel, but ties have especially worsened since the start of the war in Gaza. In fact, Israel has called repeatedly for the UNRWA to be disbanded, with its responsibilities transferred to other UN agencies. As far as Israel's big charge on the UNRWA staffers is concerned, in August, the UN has said that 9 UNRWA staff may have been involved in the October 7 assault. The UN had reportedly fired them. A Hamas commander in Lebanon who was killed last month in an Israeli strike was found to have had a UNRWA job. Another commander killed in Gaza last week doubled as a UN aid worker. UNRWA had confirmed both men had been employees. Still, when the two bills passed in the parliament are implemented, will block the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees from providing life-saving support in Gaza and West Bank for the 1.7 million displaced people of Gaza, many already living in UNRWA refugee camps. The potential loss of the only agency that exists to help them stands to hit them very hard. It is the latest in a series of confrontations between Israel and the UN. You see, in addition to its problems with the UNRWA, Israel has also attacked UN peacekeeping presence in Lebanon, UNIFIL, whose international troops in Lebanon have come under Israeli fire, including the potential deployment of white phosphorus. And there's more. On Tuesday, the office of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu denied on its X account the historical fact of the UN's role in Israel's establishment, claiming that Israel was founded solely through victory in the War of Independence. This is what Israel calls the conflict of 1948. Interestingly, the English language account did not carry a similar post. And there's more. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has also been barred from entering Israel over what the Netanyahu government says is his failure to fully condemn a missile strike by Iran on Israel in October. By voting to ban the UN agency, the Israeli government is basically steering the country towards a deeply troubling status. Without United Nations, there will be no one to hold Israel accountable. These agencies protect civilians and alleviate emergency conditions. After all, they are the pillars, in a way, of the international legal and governance system, even if they are imperfect. That's a different debate. So far, the US has shielded Israel from the consequences of its actions. And the US could also end the war today if it were to stop arming Israel and forcing a ceasefire, basically. But as the situation stands right now, it looks like a ceasefire will not come before the presidential election in the United States. And that's the tragedy of the Gaza war.
There is actually an honest question about whether one of the candidates will uphold the oath. to the Constitution of the United States.
Kamala, you're fired. Get out. You're fired. You're fired. Get the hell out of here.
On to the US elections now. Has American media been defeated this election? Why are we asking that question? Because according to a report by NPR, on Monday, over 200,000 people cancelled their digital subscription of the Washington Post. Not just that, the publication also saw a flurry of resignations from journalists over its refusal to endorse a presidential candidate. And this, by the way, marks a notable shift for the Washington Post, which has historically endorsed candidates in every presidential election since 1988. Let's get you the details at this point. Last week, the Washington Post had announced its decision to not endorse a presidential candidate in the 2024 U.S. election. Now, confirming this on Monday, Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon and the owner of the Washington Post, made the publication's stance official. The first time he has officially opened up about the principled decision. In an op-ed penned by Bezos, he stood by his decision to withdraw endorsements, citing it as a way to tackle perception of bias in media. Remember, a Gallup poll earlier ranked the media profession as the least trusted, even below Congress, beg your pardon. Now, as for the critics, such a decision was made out of concerns of a potential retaliation from Republican candidate Donald Trump should he win the election. Condemning the move, about 20 columnists wrote a counter view on the Post's website, calling its non-endorsement a terrible mistake, quote unquote, and one that meant abandoning fundamental editorial convictions. With over 200,000 people reportedly cancelling their digital subscription now, what would this mean for the news outlet that is reportedly already facing financial headwinds? The Post stand begs a series of important questions. What's really behind the Post stance? Is this really about tackling perception of bias, or is there more to all of this? Is this a terrible mistake, as the critics are labeling it? You see, among news outlets, endorsements of political figures are hardly uncommon. However, this time around, such endorsements have dropped considerably in number as compared to the previous elections. What's more, it also underscores distinct divides in American media perspectives. As per a Fox News report, only 80 media houses are backing Kamala Harris, while fewer than 10 are supporting Donald Trump. On your screen is a list of publications backing Harris. For instance, the New York Times endorsed Harris, calling her the only patriotic choice for president. We'll get you that graphic in just a bit. Meanwhile, Trump has been endorsed by publications like the New York Post, the Washington Times, and Las Vegas Review Journal, with the New York Post labeling him the right choice. So what does this split in a way in media endorsements really indicate? Even as some outlets have clearly defined candidate preferences, why are some breaking with tradition? In the 2024 World Press Freedom Index compiled by Reporters Without Borders, US ranks 55th globally, a drop from 10 positions earlier. Besides growing distrust, the RSF also noted cases of local law enforcement raiding newsrooms in the US. Let's just take a step back. What does all of this mean for the fourth pillar of the world's oldest democracy? What does this mean for the future of the United States and its people? In fact, just a short while back, the 2024 Republican presidential nominee and former U.S. President Donald Trump spoke to reporters at his estate in Palm Beach, Florida. He basically attacked his presidential opponent, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, claiming that in less than 4 years, Harris has obliterated the U.S. borders and decimated the middle class and spread chaos across the world, among other such remarks targeting Harris. He further claimed that the Republican Party is leading in 7 U.S. states, and the spirit, according to him, is unbelievable. Here's an excerpt.
In less than 4 years, Kamala Harris has obliterated our borders obliterated. We've never had a situation like this. Decimated the middle class, and runaway inflation has caused problems the likes of which we never thought possible. Bloodshed, squalor to our cities is common, and they've unleashed a war and chaos all over the world. You take a look, everything's blowing up or getting ready to blow up. No respect for our country anymore, no respect for our leadership. No person has caused so much destruction and death at home and abroad.
A fireworks tragedy during the early hours of October 29 has injured more than 150 people in Kerala in India. What really happened? What do we know so far about the ground situation? Who is accountable? Who is to be blamed for this tragedy? Let's tell you all that we need to know at this point. Thayam is a popular Hindu religious folk dance. The art form, in fact, is extremely popular in parts of northern Kerala. It is held in grounds near temples. It is said that more than 1,500 people had attended the performance at the temple in Kerala earlier today. But you see, unlike any ordinary folk dance performance, it often involves performers who carry flaming torches. There are also fireworks displays that take place as part of the events. In this case, the fireworks were stored very close to the area where the people were gathered. And what's worse, some firecrackers are said to have been burst very close to the structure where the bulk of the firecrackers was there. Videos from the incident, in fact, show that the crowd was tightly packed. All of a sudden, some sparks fell on the stored firecrackers. In no time, a fireball erupts and people are seen scrambling to safety. It is clear that there was barely any distance between the area where the crackers were burst and where they were stored. Isn't this criminal negligence? Total disregard for basic safety protocols? The rules, after all, clearly state that there must be at least 100 meters distance between the area where the crackers are being burst and the firecracker storage area. Fortunately, the storage had only low-intensity crackers, and that too in small quantities. The crackers were said to be worth around 20,000 rupees. That seems to have been the saving grace which averted a bigger tragedy. While there have been no casualties so far, around 100 people are hospitalized. Of this, 8 people have suffered serious burn injuries. So, what action has been taken and who takes responsibility for such a disaster? 2 temple committee members have been taken into custody as per reports. The local police launched an investigation into the incident. In fact, there was no permission sought for bursting crackers at the event. A police case has been registered against 8 members of the temple committee. But the larger question here is, why don't we seem to learn our lessons from such tragedies? Is human life taken for granted? Shifting focus now to Ukraine. Russia, it seems, is entering the most dangerous phase in the over 2-year-long war, as per claims made in Russian media. Its forces have taken nearly 200 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory, all within a span of 7 days. This is Russia's swiftest advance in the battleground this year. Here's a detailed report.
The 2.5-year-old war in Ukraine is entering what Russian officials say is its most dangerous phase. Even as the West ponders over how the war in Ukraine will end, Russian forces are making big advances. As per Russian media group agents TVO, the country's troops have taken 196.1 square kilometer of Ukrainian territory over the week of October 20th to 27th. If these claims are true, this would be Russia's swiftest weekly advance this year. What's the basis for these claims? Analysis of Ukrainian open source maps by agents TVO. Russian officials say that they are entering the war's most dangerous phase. Reportedly, according to the open source data, Russian forces, which President Vladimir Putin ordered into Ukraine in February 2022, advanced in September at their fastest rate since March 2022. And this is despite Ukraine's daring cross-border raid in Kursk region, which Kyiv's forces launched to take Russian territory. Last week, agents TVO said that the Russian army took 95 square kilometers near the town of Volodar and 63 square kilometers near the town of Pokrovsk. Both are in the Donbas region of eastern Ukraine. Agents TVO said that Ukrainian defenses in the Donbas were weakened by Kyiv's decision to send troops into Russia's Kursk region. Remember, Kyiv sent its troop to Russia's Kursk region in order to ease the pressure on its eastern front lines, where Russia has been making quick advances. But Ukraine's Kursk raid turned out to be a risky gamble, as Russia did not transfer troops from Donbas to Kursk. Russia has been pushing deeper into Ukrainian territory. If wartime reports are to be believed, Russia now controls about 80% of Ukraine's Donbas region. Currently, there's fierce fighting underway in Donetsk region. In fact, last week, Russia claimed to have seized control of 3 more settlements in Donetsk region. Russia has also continued to target Ukrainian tanks, armored vehicles, artillery, ammunition depots, fuel storage facilities, and temporary positions of Ukrainian troops and mercenaries. If that wasn't enough, Ukraine now has to worry about battling North Korean soldiers, allegedly recruited by Russia to fight its battle. For the first time in the war, NATO has said that North Korean troops have been deployed to Russia and are operating in the Kursk region, where Ukrainian troops have made a foothold. NATO's new Secretary General Mark Rutte said he could confirm the deployment after weeks of intelligence reports. He made the confirmation following a meeting with South Korean security and defense officials on October 28th. The NATO chief has declared North Korea's alleged involvement in the war as a dangerous expansion of Russia's war.
Today, I can confirm that North Korean troops have been sent to Russia and that North Korean military units have been deployed to the Kursk region. The deployment of North Korean troops represents 1. A significant escalation in the DPRK's ongoing involvement in Russia's illegal war. 2. Yet another breach of UN Security Council resolutions. And 3. A dangerous expansion of Russia's war.
Earlier this month, South Korea's spy agency said that at least 1,500 North Korean troops had already arrived in Russia. And on Monday, the US Defense Department estimated that about 10,000 North Korean troops had been sent to train in eastern Russia. This comes as evidence mounts that North Korea is supplying Russia with ammunition. as recently demonstrated by the recovery of a missile in Ukraine's Poltava region. The US has already called North Korean soldiers in war fair game. Question is, does this mark a new turn in the war? One that could see NATO putting troops in battleground Ukraine. We'll have to wait and watch.
And continuing with Russia, the country has reportedly made a proposal to India for using Indian airlines to operate on local routes within Russia. Yes, Russia has asked India to allow its airlines to operate domestically on Russian routes. As per a report in the Economic Times, Russia made this proposal because its own carriers are allegedly unable to meet the passenger demand. What's the reason? Western sanctions have reportedly cut off Russia's access to the US and European aircraft manufacturers and component supplies. This has reportedly not only prevented new aircraft from being added, but also led to several existing ones being grounded due to the lack of software upgrades or spare parts. According to the news report, in fact, besides India, Russia has also approached China and few Central Asian countries last month with the same proposal. The report, though, did not mention the name of the Central Asian countries. Reportedly, the issue was also raised last week during Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the BRICS summit in Kazan, Russia. As per reports, both India and Russia are yet to make any official comments on this matter. Let's now talk about the other aspect of the story. Are Indian airlines open to this proposal? Reportedly, they are not. You see, most Indian airlines operate leased fleets. And according to the news report, most lessors are against allowing Indian aircraft to fly to Russia due to the Western imposed sanctions, owing to the lessors' disagreement and the potential risk of losing insurance cover. Indian airlines are reportedly opposed to this proposal currently. That's not all. As per reports, India's airline industry is itself grappling with a shortage in aircraft supply that is affecting expansion plans, making the proposal to fly on Russia domestic routes even more unviable. As per the news report, Indian airlines have conveyed their concerns to the Indian government on this matter. So, is it common for airlines to carry domestic passengers within the territory of a foreign country? Not exactly. In fact, it is a rarity. As per reports, only Australia and New Zealand have this arrangement. Now, on to the next question, and the most important one in a way. Why is Russia in need of India's domestic aircraft fleet? You see, prior to the Ukraine war, the majority share of Russia's commercial airplanes reportedly consisted of Boeing and Airbus planes. But the sanctions imposed in the aftermath of the Ukraine war meant that all planned aircraft components, software to Russia were completely halted and given to other countries. A case in point, as per reports, is Air India. The airline reportedly procured 6 Airbus A350s, which were originally meant for Russian carrier Aeroflot. As we told you earlier, without any new aircraft, components or software, many Russian commercial planes are currently grounded. As per data from aviation consultancy CAPA, the number of aircraft in service in Russia at the end of September was 771 against 874 in September 2019. This is a drop of more than 11%. Despite Western sanctions, India and Russia, remember, continue to have strong relations. In fact, India is among a few countries allowed as far as the Russian airspace is concerned. Due to this, flight duration are shorter in comparison to the US and European airlines. What happens from here onwards, we will continue to track the developments for you. Let's now talk about what's happening in Bangladesh. As per reports, former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasinas' home is now destined to become a museum. You heard that right. The home of a leader who ruled Bangladesh for 15 years straight is being transformed into a museum. What's going on? As per reports, Bangladesh Interim Government Chief Advisor Mohammad Yunus has said the decision has been taken to honor the revolution that ousted Sheikh Hasina. But is that all, or is this Mohammad Yunus's calculated move to basically wipe out Hasina's legacy? Like we just said, the interim government led by Yunus announced that Sheikh Hasina's home will be converted into a museum, reportedly to remind the world how Hasina's regime crumbled in the wake of massive student protests that claimed over 700 lives. Back in August, remember, the unrest spiraled out of control, forcing Hasina to flee, and what followed were chaotic scenes of looting and destruction at her residence. Thousands of people could be seen flooding the palace, taking whatever they could carry. What was once a symbol of power quickly became the face of its downfall. But it doesn't stop there. The museum will reportedly feature a replica of Aina Ghar, or the House of Mirrors. As per reports, this center under Hasina's government reportedly subjected prisoners to psychological torture, where detainees were forced to confront their own reflections in isolation, seeing no one but themselves. Yunus reportedly said that the museum will serve as a stark reminder of the alleged oppression and suffering under Hasina's regime. According to reports, in fact, the construction of the museum will commence in December. Let's just pause here for a moment. Is this museum part of a larger pattern by the interim Bangladesh government? You see, the interim government has been systematically scrapping national holidays connected to Hasina's family, particularly those celebrating her father, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, Bangladesh's founding president and the father of the country. The interim government has cancelled the birth anniversaries of Mujibur Rahman, his wife, even Hasina's brothers. Significant days like March 7th and August 15th have also been stripped from the national calendar. March 7th, by the way, is the day when Sheikh Mujibur Rahman informally addressed the Bengali population in 1971 to prepare for a war of independence. August 15th, meanwhile, is the date when Mujibur Rahman and many members from his family were assassinated in 1975. So is the interim government trying to ensure that Hasina and her legacy are things of the past? Even as such moves continue, the country's economic situation is extremely concerning. Let's tell you what things are looking like on the ground. As per reports, Bangladesh's GDP growth has plummeted to 3.91% in the April to June quarter, almost half of what it was just a year ago for the same time period. Industrial production has taken a massive hit, growing by 3.98% compared to 10.16% the previous year. As per reports, the World Bank pointed to deep-rooted issues like high inflation, a growing balance of payments deficit, and a glaring lack of job opportunities. The World Bank reportedly projects that Bangladesh's growth will slow even further, dropping to 4% by 2025. As per reports, the rising income gap, especially in urban areas, is pushing more people into poverty. Job opportunities in critical sectors like ready-made garments, the pride of Bangladesh's economy, have reportedly stagnated. As the moves made by Yunus and the interim government centered around the legacy of Sheikh Hasina continue to make headlines, the country's economy is begging for attention from the authorities. Bangladesh stands at a crucial juncture. Will it rise from all this chaos, or will it fall deeper into this mess? Our next story is about Pakistan and its continued repression of Baloch people. What has Islamabad done now, you ask? Well, it has added prominent Baloch activists, Mehrang Baloch and Sibagatullah Shah in an anti-terror watch list. The Pakistan government has added the names of Baloch Yakjehti Committee, BYC leaders, to the 4th schedule list. It is a list of proscribed people under Pakistani anti-terror law. According to Mehrang Baloch, a person is required to be informed of their inclusion in the 4th schedule list within 3 days, and this allows the person to challenge the decision in court. However, in Mehrang's case, she found out about her and Shah's inclusion in the watch list through social media. This comes just days after Mehrang Baloch was prevented from attending a Time magazine event in New York meant to honor her and 99 others recognized on this year's Time 100 Next list. The 31-year-old doctor has become a household name in Pakistan for raising her voice against state repression of the Baloch community. On the day she was supposed to leave for New York, immigration officials from Pakistan's Federal Investigation Agency, FIA, detained her reportedly at Karachi's Jinnah International Airport. They confiscated her airport, reportedly stating that she did not have a valid US visa. But in fact, her passport reportedly indicates that she had been issued a 5-year visa just that day. According to local news, her name appeared on the country's no-fly list or exit control list. She contends and says that if her name was on the no-fly list, the US would not have granted her a visa. After recovering her passport from the FIA officials, Baloch was allowed to leave the airport at around midnight, more than an hour after her flight had taken off. And her plight did not end there that day. She told Time magazine that her vehicle was stopped by uniformed and plainclothed police officers from Sindh province. She said that the police officers forcibly dragged her, allegedly, and 2 of her fellow women activists out of the car. She alleged that they were searched and subjected to verbal abuse, following which her passport, phone, car keys were allegedly confiscated. That's the unfortunate fate of most Baloch activists in Pakistan. Countless Balochs are constantly harassed by the police, and countless activists are included in the anti-terrorism list. In fact, the Pakistan government has been imposing curbs on political activists in Balochistan and abducting, allegedly, political workers and students for years. In fact, according to reports, more than 50 Baloch citizens were reportedly abducted just this month itself. Critics say that Pakistan's Anti-Terrorism Act, promulgated on August 13, 1997, to prevent terrorism in the country, is now being used to silence peaceful and democratic voices. They are harassed and persecuted for seeking justice in line with Pakistan's constitution and international human rights. Balochistan, which has endured state violence for a long time, often sees uprising and protest movements against the state repression. In fact, critics note how the Pakistani state seeks to stifle Baloch people and their movement through such tactics. What are these tactics? Killings, abductions, imposition of draconian laws. Advocates say that over 3,000 names were added to the 4th schedule just this year. However, the Balochistan government claimed that only 311 people from Quetta city were added to the list. You know what that means? It means that every city in the Balochistan province has its own list in a way. Sometimes they make mistakes in that list as well. In fact, Baloch advocates ridicule how the state has not even updated the questionnaire that needs to be filled in the Anti-Terrorism Act form. The form basically carries questions related to the Taliban, despite politics in Balochistan being completely different from the one in Pakistan's other restive province, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The mistake in the form shows a lack of understanding on the part of the government in a way, and proves its only intent in a way is to harass the Baloch people. It's because of these reasons and more that the Baloch activists like Mehrang have no faith in the country's institutions, though her organization has approached the court to challenge the government's move. But as far as defending Baloch rights is concerned, Mehrang sounds resolute. She has told media outlets that no list can prevent her from meeting her people, nor strip the Baloch of their right to political activism. Let's now talk about the curse of pollution in the Indian national capital. Well, it continues. Each year around this time, the air quality in India's national capital and its adjoining areas plummets. It's a perpetual state of crisis. Data showing that pollution levels crossed 25 to 30 times the World Health Organization's recommended safe limit at several locations in the National Capital Region. Just to give you an example of the extent of the pollution that we are talking about, these are images of the Taj Mahal, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. A few hours' drive from the national capital. It has been shrouded in a blanket of smog, as you can see, because of the pollution, making it barely visible.
Taj Mahal is very pretty, but the only problem here is the air pollution. I have read that the industries were removed. Still, if there is pollution, then something needs to be done.
Now, this week, this area consistently recorded particulate matter PM 2.5 levels exceeding 300 or very poor air quality. Forecasts suggesting that this could worsen in the coming days. Just to give our viewers a better sense, the PM 2.5 level in Bengaluru is at 110, Chennai at 138, which falls under moderate category. Mumbai at 89, Kolkata at 83 are satisfactory. Delhi also has the dubious distinction of being the world's second most polluted after Lahore in Pakistan, remember. But who is really to be blamed for this pollution curse? India's top court on several occasions in the last 5 years has said that the right to clean air is essential to the right to life. In fact, last week, the court referred to this fundamental right once again while scolding the centre and the governments of Delhi and the neighbouring states for failing to ensure a pollution-free environment in the capital and its adjoining areas. The problem, the top court pointed out, is the lack of resolve from both the centre and the state governments. It is now an established pattern, unfortunately, the decline in air quality coinciding with the burning of farm stubble, primarily from Punjab, Haryana and Uttar Pradesh. Stubble burning basically refers to a traditional practice of farmers burning the remnants of paddy stalks after harvesting. This method is often the fastest way, as the farmers in Punjab and Haryana have a narrow window of October and November to clear their fields and sow wheat for the winter. India's apex court called out Punjab and Haryana for their failure to check farmers from setting crop residue on fire. So is stubble burning the only villain as far as Delhi's pollution crisis is concerned? Data shows that on October 25, stubble burning contributed to nearly 15% of Delhi's air pollution. On the same day, Delhi transport, which includes particulate matter from vehicles and vehicles crossing into Delhi, was responsible for about 18% of the PM 2.5 load. This according to the IITM's air quality forecast system. In fact, a joint analysis by IIT Kanpur, IIT Delhi and TERI of the sources of pollution in Delhi found that the real-time source apportionment of PM 2.5 results showing secondary inorganic aerosols or SIA, which travel from beyond Delhi, contribute the highest to Delhi's pollution load. The average of winter pollution source apportionment shows SIA at 32% and biomass burning within and outside Delhi at 24% contribute the most, followed by vehicles at 17%. In the year 2022, after the Aam Aadmi Party came to power in Punjab, there was hope that the state government would coordinate better with its counterpart in Delhi when it comes to resolving this long-standing issue. However, politics continues to play its part. After 2022, the Delhi government pointed its guns towards Haryana and now Uttar Pradesh, even as the data continues to implicate all three. The BJP claimed that on Saturday, October 26th, 108 incidents of stubble burning were recorded in Punjab, yet ministers from the Delhi government frequently placed the blame on the neighbouring states, Haryana and Uttar Pradesh. The problem also lies with the 3-year-old Commission on Air Quality Management. The agency has failed to drive a change in the post-harvest practices of farmers in Delhi's neighbourhood. The agency has hardly taken any meaningful steps to bring all parties to the negotiating table. It has, at best, functioned as an emergency resolution body when the problem requires round-the-year action. And while the residents continue to get choked, where does the buck really stop? It is time that political leaders and policymakers realize that the biggest elephant in the room, the biggest problem here is baseline pollution load. Cleaning it will require innovations in technology, more investments in public transport. It also needs a solid political will and a nudge for people to make behavioral changes. All of this cannot happen overnight and in an emergency mode. This will need an effort round the year. Our next story is an extraordinary one. It would make you sit up and wonder about the endless possibilities that the world of medicine has to offer, about the breakthroughs and medical milestones that are transforming our lives in more ways than one. Let me tell you what we are talking about. The story is about what a new radioactive therapy has reportedly achieved. It made possible the shrinking of a brain tumor by half. And you know how long that took? Just weeks. Remarkable, right? Shrinking a man's brain tumor by half, and the credit goes to the new therapy. How exactly does it work? What do we know at this point? How was this made possible? Let's break this down for you and tell you all that you need to know. The man we are talking about is from a town in England. He was the first patient to take part in a trial. What kind of trial? The goal basically was to treat a type of cancer. It is called glioblastoma. Simply put, it's a type of brain cancer. It is usually very aggressive. What does that mean? Basically, it can grow fast and spread quickly. In fact, just for context here, it reportedly kills most patients within 18 months. It is the most common type of malignant brain tumor among adults. In fact, it makes up about 50% of all brain tumors in America. Each year, around 12,000 are diagnosed with the disease. So how exactly did the process work out? The therapy at University College London Hospital's NHS Foundation Trust basically saw low levels of radioactivity being injected into the tumor. The aim, of course, was to go after the cancer cells. Reportedly, according to the doctor who designed the trial, the outcome was remarkable for somebody whose tumor is so aggressive. That says a lot, right? Basically, since it is targeted directly to the tumor cells, it's very powerful when it comes to killing the cells. And there's more. Here's what happened. First, as much tumor as possible was removed. A small medical device was implanted. This was under the scalp. You see, the drug is potent over short distances and causes lethal damage to the cancer cells while sparing the healthy tissue, reportedly. So what does this mean for the way forward, really? Will this prove to be a game changer in the fight against cancer? According to the doctor, as it was the first human study, they were cautious in their approach, but later hoped to increase the dose of radiation. Also, the number of patients. Diwali, the Indian festival of lights, is just around the corner, and the celebrations have already started across India and around the world. In London, thousands gathered at Trafalgar Square to celebrate the festival with lights, dance and music. Meanwhile, in Mumbai, Pune, hundreds thronged to the markets to buy decorations, among other things. Have a look. And on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas tonight. We're taking a very short break and leaving it there. Thanks very much for watching. This is me, Molly Gampir, signing off.